It was just before midnight, on the eve of Julia's birthday. Asher stepped out onto the moonlit balcony of their Florence hotel, gazing at her with such tenderness and affection that Julia actually blushed. She must have known on some level what was coming. She'd vaguely registered the brilliant flash of a diamond, the shimmering platinum band. She'd subconsciously noted Asher's uncharacteristically tentative demeanor, a far cry from the powerhouse facade he generally presented to the world as he slowly, deliberately, even humbly lowered himself onto one knee, holding her eyes the entire time. Yes, of course she must have known. How could she not? But even so, she'd felt a delightful bafflement as to what her intimate partner of nearly 2 years could possibly be up to. In fact, she'd had to restrain herself from blurting out, "Asher, sweetheart, what are you doing?" But she hadn't. She'd remained quiet. Asher cleared his throat and paused to brush a lock of his thick dark hair from his eyes, a gesture which prompted a small smile from Julia. Asher was so commanding, so certain of what he wanted and what was important in life, and yet he could never quite tame that longish, unruly hair of his. Perhaps inspired by the works of art they'd seen today, here in the birthplace of the Renaissance, her fingers suddenly itched to paint him. Of course, she'd never be able to fully capture his essence in a portrait. He was a masterpiece, not just physically, but in every sense. She regarded him fondly, feeling herself coming dangerously close to losing herself in his deep brown eyes. Yet still, she didn't resist. The sensation was terrifying, but electrically so. No more holding back, she thought. Finally, after a lifetime of playing it safe, she managed to let go completely. He gave her a hand up, and Julia immediately noted his strength. Asher was strong too, but in a subtler way. Sean's manliness was very marked. It intimidated her a little, it always had. In high school, she'd seen him around in the hallways. Occasionally they spoke a few words. Of course, she'd been attracted to Sean Harris. Of course, she'd been mildly obsessed with him. What heterosexual Jefferson High School girl hadn't been? His family had moved to town from Iowa just in time for him to join the freshman class at their high school in Syracuse, New York, where he'd quickly become a superstar quarterback of the football team, with the beautiful head cheerleader girlfriend Anne-Marie Amoroso. And on top of that, he was smart. Was there anything sexier than a scholar athlete? After high school, he'd gone back to Iowa for college on a football scholarship. Julia, on the other hand, had been a largely unnoticed, nose-to-the-grindstone, good student, honor roll, track team, arts journal, but she'd never been valedictorian, or class president, or head of anything. Her one fleeting moment of Jefferson High School fame had been when her design was chosen from hundreds of entries for a community art mural which, for several heady years, had graced an entire wall of a Little League baseball stadium until it was painted over to accommodate a 10-foot by 12-foot Doritos ad. Apart from the mural, Julia's high school existence had been largely behind the scenes. Introspective and imaginative as a child during high school, without her mother to turn to, she'd been even more terrified of the opposite sex than she was now. In short, she'd been a socially awkward good girl nerd, and so she remained at her core. Yes, of course, she'd been attracted to Sean Harris. He'd also been completely out of her league. Mr. Out of her league was still holding her hand, she realized. As if sensing what she was thinking, he dropped it. Julia's palm felt warm, which made sense given that she was still dripping with sweat from the Ashtanga session. Sean's palm had been moist as well. It occurred to her that she and Sean Harris had exchanged body fluids. "Stop it," she ordered herself.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.